Oh,
Barry
Barry
Manilow.
Manilow.
Barry Manilow has a tunnel constructed for him from the dressing room to the stage with blankets and sheets so that he can walk through his tunnel and it won't make eye contact with anybody from the time he leaves his dressing room till the time he gets to the stage.
He's rolling. Are you rolling? Okay. Rob, welcome back to Dallas. I don't say welcome to Dallas because you've been here many times.
Yes, I have.
As a matter of fact, you launched your Defending the Caveman show here.
Yes, back in '92, the show was here for 11 months. It sold out 400 consecutive shows and went from a small place to a bigger place to finally the Majestic Theater. And do you need to reshoot that because of the noise?
Yeah, let's try again. Okay. I'll just feed you the line. Okay. You ready? Mm-hmm. You actually launched Defending the Caveman in Dallas.
That's right. The original run was here in Dallas. It ran for 11 months, sold out 400 consecutive shows, and went from a smaller place to a bigger place to finally the Majestic Theater. And Dallas has just been very, very good to me.
That's a great success story. I mean, the whole Defending the Caveman is a great success story.
Well, it launched me eventually to Broadway.
And then you set some records there.
Yeah, then I set the record for the longest running solo show in the history of Broadway.
When you were, well, let me back up a minute. When I'm in New York at a show, I'm always amazed at how New Yorkers talk to the people on stage. That always just amazes me. Now, did you have experiences like that in New York?
No, not really.
Really? They didn't talk to you?
No, not any more than anywhere else.
What's the weirdest thing anybody's ever yelled at you from the audience?
People don't yell out very much. The only time people yell out things are if I ask a question. Like there's a part in the show where I talk about how women actually take over the house and that guys have no territory inside the house. All of our territories are outside the house. The garage, the basement, the attic. And so every night I'll ask the guys, do you have any male territory inside your house? And I had one guy tell me that he had a special room in the house, and he started to describe it, and it turned out it was the basement. I asked him, I said, by any chance, is there a water heater in this office of yours? He says, oh yeah. I said, you have a basement, right? He goes, yeah, well, it's an office. I said, do you have to walk downstairs to get to it? He goes, yeah. I said, there's a water heater down there? He said, yeah. I said, you got a basement.
Do you write all your own material?
I write all the material. A lot of the material in Caveman came out of conversations that I had with my wife, Erin. So while she didn't necessarily write the material, she certainly had a lot of input, especially into the things that I talk about when it comes to women and how they make relationships.
Does she ever take exception to things that you put in there that maybe she has said?
There's the only part that she has a reservation about is there's a part in the show where I talk about how when we had this argument about housework where she wanted me to do housework, so I tried to do some housework, and then she was very critical of what I had done. And so I said, if you're so critical, maybe you should go and try and set up the VCR. And the joke there is that I don't know how to do housework and she doesn't know how to set up the VCR. So she said, but I do know how to set up the VCR. And I said, well, then go ahead and set it up. And she said, well, I'd have to get the instructions. And I said, exactly, that's the point. The point isn't that you could not do the VCR. The point is you don't know how right now. It's just like, it's not that I couldn't do housework, I just don't know how right now. So once I explained it to her, she said, oh, well, all right. But she still doesn't like it because she still thinks that people will think that she couldn't do the VCR. That's some people will think that she's not able to do the VCR. She could if she got the instructions and figured it all out, but she has no interest in it.
I identify with Erin completely.
She's also afraid because, basically for an hour and 45 minutes, I talk about our fights. And because, the times we get along are not funny. It's not funny to tell the audience, hey, here's an example of a time we really got along well. It's not funny. And so the other thing she says is, she said, I'm just afraid that the audience is going to think that's all we do is fight. And nobody thinks that. You know, everybody that sees the show comes away saying, you guys must have a good relationship for you to be able to get up on stage and talk about all these differences and had to have worked all these things through, you know, to have worked through all these things. So I think it really comes across that I care about her, that we have a good relationship. And I think that's part of the theme of the show, is that you can have a great relationship and still fight. And I think people need to know that, because I think sometimes you're in a fight and it's kind of depressing, because you start to think if you're in a good relationship, you're not supposed to fight, or that you're the only ones that fight. And we hear so much from people after the show. People will say, we thought we were the only ones that fought about all these things. So there's something really healing and relieving for people to know that there's another couple out there that's having a good relationship. We're staying together. We've been together almost 16 years, and we fight about the same things you do. All the stuff you fight about, Aaron and I fight about the same things.
They say that money is one of the sources of arguments between men and women, husbands and wives. Do you have money things in your show?
Yeah, there's a segment that talks about how we shop very differently. That a lot of times Aaron would like to imagine having certain things, and that's all. So she'll point to something in the store and say, hey, I could imagine having that in our living room. And I'm saying, well, hey, it doesn't belong to us. And because for me, if I can't afford it, or if I don't have the money for it right now, I can't imagine having it in my living room. I have to have the money first before I imagine. So if we walk around the store and she says, oh, I could imagine having that, and that would look great in our living, I'm walking around thinking she wants all these things. She wants to buy them right now. For her, a lot of times, she just wants to imagine it, and then it's over. She doesn't necessarily want to buy them. One time, it was around Christmas time, and she stopped in a store. She really admired something and said it was great. So I remember that. I bought it for Christmas, and she said, oh, well, why'd you get this? I said, because remember you told me how much you loved it? She goes, no, I just wanted, you know, I was just playing. I was just imagining having it, and I was done. I was really done with that. So that's a revelation for guys, because I think a lot of times a guy walks around the store with his wife, and she's pointing out all the things that she likes, and a guy's thinking, oh my God, I'll never be able to afford all these things. So it's interesting to find out that just because a woman likes something doesn't mean she has to buy it. Whereas I think for a guy, if I start to admire something, if I start to say, hey, you know, I can imagine driving in that car, I'm already planning how to get the money to pay for that car.
What gives you this tremendous insight, though? Because some men could live, you know, a century and never get it, you know, the differences between men and women. What gives you this insight?
I think every guy has these insights that I have, but I think most guys have a hard time putting them in words. And so I think my talent is only that I'm able to put it in words what every guy is thinking. So I don't think it's that I have insights no one else has. I just think I'm able to articulate them, so that when guys come and watch the show, they go, you know what, he's saying all the stuff that I think, but could never put in words.
Growing up, what was it like in your family with your mother and father?
Well, we were a circus family, so no, I'm just kidding.
Lots of lions and tigers around, I
Right.
guess.
No, my parents used to fight, and a lot of times I was sort of a go-between, in the sense that if I wanted to do something, like let's say I wanted to go out with some friends of mine to the local store, I might go to my mother and say, hey, is it all right if I go to the store with my friends? And she'd say, you know, you need to go ask your father. So I'd go ask my father. He'd say, well, what'd your mother say? I'd say, she said to ask you. And then he'd have some choice words about that. So I'd have to go back and translate that to her, and back and forth between the two of them. So even as a little kid, I could see that fights between men and women are silly. I could see that. And I could see that a lot of their fights were based on just a simple misunderstanding. And that if these two understood each other a little better, they wouldn't fight at all. And it's the same thing. They were married for a long, long, long time, and basically had a good marriage, but they fought.
Rob, when you come back into a city like Dallas, where you've been before, do you bring an all-new show, or do you have old parts and new parts?
No, this is a show that was written over a 4-year period and had a long tryout period before taking it to Broadway. And so the whole idea was to create a show and get it to be the best show I could possibly make it, and then bring it to Broadway and perform it there. And then it was so successful there, it's had a long run on the road. So it really is a show. It has a beginning, middle, and end. There are themes that wind through it and tie up at the end. And it took a long time to get the show into the shape that it is now, where all the little pieces fit together. So what I would like to do is do a whole nother show. At some point I would like to do a second show about raising kids and call it Cave Dad.
And you have 3 children, don't you?
We have 3 children, and I believe that men and women parent very, very differently. And I also believe that it doesn't matter what you do, your boys will turn out like boys and your girls will turn out like girls. We tried really hard to keep guns away from my son and dolls from my daughter. We tried to do this modern thing. And, you know, you start to think about that. Why are you keeping guns from your son and dolls from your daughter? It's because you think they'll like them. When you keep things from people that you think they'll like, that's not, all that is deprivation. You're depriving them of things that you think they'll like. So it didn't matter anyway, because my son, we didn't give him guns, and he turned everything in the house into a gun. I came down one morning and he was doing something with his hand, and I said, "What are you doing?" He had chewed his toast, it was now a gun. And we were reading the alphabet, he said, "Look at the J, turn on the side is a gun." And he, you know, he pointed his fingers at us, he had a whole range of sound effects, so it didn't matter. My daughter, one time my son asked for a little toolkit for Christmas, so we gave them both a little toolkit. And one night I went to tuck my daughter in, and she was putting her hammer to bed next to her. So, you know, it doesn't matter what you do. Your boys will turn out like boys, your girls like girls. And that also feeds into the theme of my show, which is I really believe that a lot of this stuff is just genetic. If you're sitting around waiting for your partner to change and metamorphose into this whole new creature, you're wasting your time.
Well, Rob, we won't be wasting any more of your time because I know you have other interviews. But thank you so much for coming and talking with us today. And I will add all the bit about the performances and everything.
Great.
We don't need to go into that
Okay.
right now. But thanks so much. I've really enjoyed meeting you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need to get some. You actually launched this show in, let me start again. Rob, you actually launched Defending the Caveman in Dallas, didn't you?
That's right.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah,
That's
fine.
You just want your question, right?
Yeah, but I might have you do a little bit more.
Do you want me to?
No, that's fine for that one. Okay. Do you write all of your own material?
Yes, I do. All of my material. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you want me to try and give the same answers?
No, you don't have to give the same answers. No. All right. What gives you this tremendous insight into the differences between men and women?
Well, I'm very bright. I'm really a smart guy, and am I blowing it for you?
No, that's not. Okay.
These are just so you can do the questions, and you'll cut the other answers in, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, no, we're not recording your sound.
You could kill me.
Okay.
We asked Rob, and he said,
right.
I'm really bright.
Okay. You ready, Linda? Okay. Does your wife ever take exception to some of the things you have in the show that refer back to what she has said or done?
Well, I only hear about that through the divorce papers, so I don't. You'll have to ask my lawyer.
Okay. Okay. Do people in the audience ever yell out things to you?
No, because I think it interrupts their booing.
Okay. Is this the same show you've done before, or do you constantly add new things to your show?
This is a whole different show because originally it was on ice. It was Caveman on ice, I did a lot of ice skating, and there was fog and lights and everything. But now it's just a one-man comedy show. So it's a complete transition.
No lions or tigers?
No lions or tigers.
Okay. Okay, this will be the last one. What was it like growing up in your family between your mother and father?
Well, I started out small, and I eventually got bigger and bigger.
I'm trying to help her out. And you're not making it any easier. No, that's okay.
It was a tradition in our family.
Okay, Linda, do you think
All
we're
the Becker
covered?
kids did it.
Okay, all right.